Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Change is never easy, and figuring out what you want to do next in your career can be especially hard. A coach can make a big difference when you deal with a challenge like this. I've worked with several coaches in the past, and the experience has helped me grow both at home and at work. That's why I was excited to try the personal coaching offered by Strawberry.me. It's certified professional coaching done securely online, and Strawberry.me is more convenient than traditional coaching. That's because you can schedule live video sessions, plus log in anytime to exchange messages with your coach. Working with a coach, I saw why I was putting off several important projects at Mac's list. I also learned what I needed to do to stop procrastinating about these tasks. Find out how a coach can help you. Visit strawberry.me/dreamjob. That's strawberry.me/dreamjob and take charge of your future with the help of a certified coach. Special offer for Dream Job listeners. Get a $50 credit when you use our link at strawberry.me/dreamjob. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Last week, Laura Knights explained why you need to show your value to an employer and how to do it. But your needs matter too. And understanding your own goals will not only help you find a better job, it will also help you make a better case for yourself. William Corless is here to talk about how to know what you want and what you offer. He's an executive coach and facilitator, and William also hosts the Workplace Podcast. He joins us from Dublin. Well, let's jump right into it, William. Why is it important for you to know when looking for work to understand both what you want and what you offer?
I think it's really important, Mac, to understand what energizes you, what you're interested in. And most importantly is understanding that you're learning from the past, a bit like relationships or when you're dating again, you know what doesn't work and what does work. And I think what's really important about that then is you understand, okay, well, why is it that I'm leaving this job? And if I was to find a new job, then what would be the right match or fit for me? So again, it's a bit like that dating analogy. It's that profile is what is the type of job? What is the type of team, manager, organization, or sector that will fit that profile that best meets my needs, my interests, my competencies, my experience, and my expertise? And then I'm going to be really valued, and I place value then on the work that I do.
Let's talk about what matters to employers. What difference does it make, William, to an employer when you can explain what you want and what you offer?
I think clarity is key. So you have to remember what employers are looking for. So number one is they're looking for your competence. Are you able to do the job? They want to make sure they can trust you to do the job in a consistent and reliable manner to meet their expectations. That's number one about competence. Number two is they're going to be spending 40 hours a week with you. They have to make sure that, just like dating, they want to be satisfied that they spend that amount of time with you, that you will be able to interact with other people, with clients, with suppliers in a way that represents the organizational values.
You mentioned energy a moment ago. What part does energy and engagement play in making the right career choices?
Yeah, I think it's really important that role of emotional intelligence and knowing yourself, that self-awareness is really important. And I often talk to clients about looking back on your previous career, your last couple of jobs. What is it you really liked? And the reason why I say that is this is what gives you energy. This is what gives you that motivation to be the best at your job, that performance piece. And this is what managers and employers are looking for is that how can I hire someone that is going to be at their optimal consistency consistently.
What would you say to a listener, William, who thinks, well, I'm not excited about this position, but I need the job? Can an employer pick up on whether you don't have energy or not?
Yeah, they're called micro expressions, Mac, and this comes out in our body language. It's very hard to disguise our body language, and if we are muted in that, or if our passion doesn't shine through, that's going to be quite noticeable to an employer. And this is what, when you're going into an interview, to be fully prepared, then that you understand what you like, what you dislike, what you enjoy, and what you find difficult. And from that, then they might ask you, what are your challenges? What do you think you need your development, if you're to development needs or training needs to be successful in this job? And what they're really looking for is to understand, do you have that self-awareness? Do you have those um, major blind spots? Are you fully aware of what your areas of strengths are, your competencies are? And also, it's figuring out, well, where are your areas of development that we can help you to be a success in your job. So you're not really hiding anything. You're going to be very authentic about that. And I think employers, interviewers, recruiters are very astute at understanding that people may shield, um, aspects of their personality that they're not most confident in. But really, what you're trying to do is portray that you're confident and competent, and you be consistent in delivering a high performance for that organization.
How do you develop that self awareness so that you're both aware of your strengths and your the areas where you need to improve? What do you recommend to your clients?
I do a very simple 4 question exercise. So I've just mentioned it briefly here. So when you look back in your last 4 or 5 jobs or over your CV or your career, what you can do is you can understand, these are the elements of my job I really liked. And then you highlight those there. And then what you do is you go to, well, you look at the aspects of my jobs that I didn't like, and then you highlight that. And you're going to start noticing patterns there. Then you're going to highlight things that you find really easy. And when you find stuff that's really easy, that really highlights a strength of yours. And then what you find difficult, then that's something you find really challenging. So I'm going to give you an example. I really dislike, for example, routine. So for me, then what I really like, the opposite to that, is variety. Again, what I find difficult doesn't mean that I can't do it. It's a challenge for me. Is I find details really difficult. So would you believe, Mac? I used to be an electronic engineer. Wasn't something that I could really be good at, because from a sustainable point of view, if I'm not playing to my strengths, I'm not going to be fully successful. Not and I'm able to meet my optimal performance now because I'm able to understand my personality. I'm able to understand what I really like, what I'm really good at, and what I'd like to see more of in my job, so I can be motivated more consistently in the workplace and be more engaged.
And when you know what your strengths are and the areas where you might need improvement, how do you communicate that in the interview and in your application materials? What's the most effective way to talk about those things?
I think the best way to talk about those things is exactly, it's like a dating profile again. Am I meeting their needs? And this organization, do they meet my needs? And then there's going to be an overlap there. And what you might say is, for example, if there's an overlap in, if you say, for example, you're going for a public body, government organization, something like that, you can put in the words of why you would like to do that. It could be public service. It could be that you enjoy stability of a job or routine or whatever. There's something there that you can get across in your values, your interests, and your needs, why you want that job, and also why you believe you're the best candidate for it. And the more then that you have that self knowledge, the more you're able to craft a message, a story about that. And I think it's really important that people rehearse that quite a bit.
Terrific. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. When we come back, William Corless will continue to share his advice on how to know what you want and what you offer. Have you ever been asked this in a job interview? Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with your boss. What would you say? This is what's called a behavioral interview question, and it's a common tactic. Employers use this kind of question to explore your fit for a job based on your past experience. It can be an easy question to answer if you have the right strategy. I show you how to answer these gotcha questions in our free Max List guide, 100 Behavioral Interview Questions You Need to Know. To get your copy, visit maxlist.org/questions. You'll also learn 4 simple steps for answering any behavioral interview question. Again, that's maxlist.org/questions. You can count on getting these questions in your next interview. Why not get the answers before you walk into the interview room? Go to maxlist.org/questions. Because I run a job board, I talk to applicants almost every day. And many of the people I meet make the same mistake. They have no clear job search goals. So they apply everywhere, every day, all day long. You might think it's smart to send lots of applications. After all, it's a numbers game, right? It's not. The more you narrow your search, the easier everything gets, and the happier you'll be in your next job. Stop chasing every lead. Instead, focus on what you really want. Now, figuring out your goals can be hard, but we have a Max List resource that can help. Finding focus in your job search. Go to maxlist.org/focus. Our free step-by-step Max List guide will help you create your own job search goals. Get your copy today. Visit maxlist.org/focus. Again, that's maxlist.org/focus. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with William Corless. He's an executive coach and facilitator. William also hosts the Workplace Podcast. He joins us from Dublin. William, before the break, we were talking about how to know what you want and what you offer. And at the end of the first segment, you were talking about the importance of self-knowledge. What have you found are some common barriers that prevent people from understanding what they want and what they offer?
I think some of the barriers there is maybe old patterns like limiting beliefs. They might say to themselves, I'm not good enough, or they might think I would never be able to do that. And it's more to do with that they haven't seen anybody in their social circle be able to do that. Okay. And I think sometimes it's understanding what your limiting beliefs are, but also there's kind of old patterns then that might have emerged. And this is where you need to challenge yourself then is, was I a bit of a workaholic? Was I a perfectionist? Was I a people pleaser? And this is where, from a personal development point of view, to say, if I'm starting off in a clean slate here, how might I show up in a different way? And I think it's about knowing what your value proposition is. And I've often worked with people who had limiting beliefs or might have had poor confidence. And when we did different exercises like listing out all their experience, all their competencies, all their skills, all the expertise that they have, they realize, actually, I have a lot to offer. And this is my value proposition. And once you have that written down, your mind doesn't play tricks anymore. And this is the importance of using journals or mind maps just to remind yourself that you actually have a lot to offer. One such tool is the personal business model canvas that if people look that up online for careers specifically, I definitely would recommend that. And this is where for people then is you need to figure out then, just like a date, is how do you show up as your best self? How do you project the best version of yourself? And I think if you fall into the pattern where you have that negative self-talk, what you need to start really thinking about is who the person that really admires me, or I'm really close to, what would they say about me? And if you can start talking to yourself like that, and self-talk I think is really important, is that if you think about it, if you spoke to those people who you love around you in the same way you speak to yourself in that negative way, you probably wouldn't have a whole lot of people around you. So just to remind yourself is who is the person you need to be to really nourish yourself and talk to yourself in that positive light.
You've laid out a lot of good work there, identifying self-limiting beliefs, asking people for their assessment of your strengths and your abilities, uh, perhaps doing some journaling, uh, envisioning your best self. How do you get started doing this, and how long does it take, and can you do it on your own, William?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mac, is you can do it on your own first. What I really would say is for people is some people say they have a blind spot and they're afraid to find out what others might think of them. And I did this exercise many years ago, I'd say 20 years ago, and I asked people, the simple question is, what do you believe my values, my strengths, my traits are in a positive light? And I reached out to people I could trust. No, I didn't go to my own personal male friends, because there might have been some raving going on or whatever. But I reached out to, family and cousins and other people that I worked with that was going to take it with the positive intention or the outcome that I was looking for. And I was quite surprised how people viewed me. And many people that I coach and I offer this as an exercise to do, they really start recognizing that they have a lot of hidden strengths that they may not realize. And especially your coworkers down through the years, then is, what is it that you liked working with me before? What do you think I was really good at? What is it you think my competencies are? And if you were to give me advice on something to work on or something I should promote about myself, what is that? And with all this work between journaling and talking to people or maybe emailing people, then you're really getting a good sense of how you're portrayed. And this is all reinforcing of your identity and your ego. And I think it's really important that you understand what esteem is. And what esteem is, especially that positive self regard, is how do I perceive myself and how do others perceive me? And again, it's all to do with perception. And what we have to do is be very objective. By writing it down, we can say, actually, this is how I am perceived. And maybe you can say to yourself, maybe there's some truth in this. It's a bit like that old Whiskas ad, 9 out of 10 cats, must say it's true. It must be true. I think that's really important then for yourself is to reach out as many people as possible and figure out what are the commonalities there and how they see me in that positive light.
So you do this work, you have a sense of what your strengths are and what you want and what your best self will look like. Many people, William, struggle with self-promotion and advocating for themselves. How do you help your clients become good at self-promotion and advocate for themselves during a job search?
So I often use this self-distancing technique. So this self-distancing perspective is that third person. If somebody else was to describe you, Mac, how would they describe you? And you choose that person, and they find it very easy to go, well, this person would say this, and they'd say that, and they'd say, listen, Mac, you're a great podcaster, and you ask really good questions, and you're really prepared, and you're very punctual, and all of these things, Mac, are going to come out. And I think it's very easy then is if you choose people and you guess what they might say. That's a very easy way of looking at that. And again, what it is it's you understanding that you deserve this. You're championing yourself, and you're giving best chance of doing that is of seizing the opportunity. And by seizing the opportunity, it's about being prepared mentally, emotionally, and physically for the interview. And what I mean by that is maybe don't drink too much coffee beforehand, and it's going to make you nervous. Or maybe it's about taking a breath, or maybe it's just sipping on water and relaxing and really concentrating on the speaker. And it's really important to be yourself with skill.
So you know what you want and what you offer. You're talking to employers. You're in the interview room. How do you how do you evaluate whether a company, a team, or the manager that you're connecting with during a job search is the right fit for you?
Yeah, there's several ways to do that. So number one, if it's a brand new industry, you can actually talk to people that you may know in that industry. If not, you have to remember your network. There are people that can connect you to people who are in that industry. So I think that's really important to go, well, what do you really like about this job? If you're to meet that person, tell you more about that sector and or that industry, and what are the challenges there? What advice would you give me? What are the things that I really need to be aware of, that maybe the dark side of this? So you want to see both sides of it so you can really make up your mind. Again, from a culture fit or a company fit, then you can do your research online like Glassdoor and figure out what people thought about the company. You can figure out, again, if you use LinkedIn, who are the people that you know that work in that company, and then you can get an insight in from them to what that work experience is like.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, William. Now tell us what's next for you.
What's next for me? Well, I have many interesting guests coming up in the Workplace podcast, and I have so many offerings being promoted in this year, which is great. I've online workshops, in-person workshops, whether it's leadership, high performance teams, conflict resolution, relationship dynamics, breakthrough conversations. So yeah, people can find me on LinkedIn, William Corless, Corless, or under Yellowwood, all one word, on LinkedIn.
Terrific. We'll be sure to include a link to your LinkedIn page in the show notes and on our website. And when you do reach out to William on LinkedIn, I hope you'll mention you heard him on Find Your Dream Job. And I know your website also offers more information about your podcast and your services. That URL is www.yellowwood.ie. Now, William, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about how to know what you want and what you offer?
I think it's really important that a couple of things. One is you practice talking about yourself in a factual way. Create a story bank of star moments, how you can competently do the job, like situation, task, action, result. Focus on the competencies that you can do on the job, that there's a real overlap, that you can actually do that job that you see on the job description, and visualize yourself doing that job and imagine yourself doing that, and have questions lined up for the interview to go, this is my understanding of the job. I would like to know more about this. So remember that interview is just like a date, that it's good fit for you. So you can hit the ground running and they can imagine you doing the job. They know that you're asking the right questions. I think it's really important that you come across as interested, competent, and engaging.
Next week, our guest will be Mark Crossfield. He's a career coach, author, and podcast host. And he has a new book out, Mid-Career Change, A Guide for Hope, Clarity, and Action. Experts say you will change careers 3 or more times. And as you plan your next move, there are real challenges you will need to overcome. But other obstacles you may worry about simply aren't real. Join us next Wednesday when Mark Crossfield and I talk about 3 career change myths you need to ignore. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton-Hove schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Moe creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week. Do you want a creative job in 2025? You better understand data. That's because today's employers not only want creativity, they want people who know numbers and can measure results. Find out how data skills can help you get hired, not only for your next job, but throughout your career. Join me, Mac Pritchard, and the MaxList team on May 15th at the University of Portland from 5:30 to 8 p.m. We'll be talking about how to get a marketing job in today's uncertain economy and why analytics gives you an edge. This in-person only event in Portland, Oregon is hosted by MaxList and the University of Portland School of Business. You'll hear from a panel of top communicators, including Kevin Kinghorn, the Chief Marketing Officer of the Portland Trail Blazers. You'll also have time to network with other creatives and meet representatives from Portland staffing agencies and professional groups. Early bird tickets are $15 through April 30th. Space is limited. Reserve your seat now at maxlist.org/May event. That's maxlist.org/May event. Again, maxlist.org/May event. See you on May 15th.